order. Planning Commission, Cape Charles Planning Commission, regular session at Cape Charles Civic Center, 500 Tazewell Avenue, December 5th, 2023. Get a roll call, please.
Grossman present.
Ashworth present.
Strube present.
Holloway present.
Smith present.
Let it be shown that we have a quorum. Can we all stand for a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance? Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. 3, reorganization of board and election of officers. So, I don't know what the reorganization of the board means.
We'll start voting on officers.
So, normally in November, we, per our bylaws, we elect officers. We didn't have quite the crowd that we needed last time, so we postponed it to this month. The only person that's absent is Dennis McCoy, so I think we should proceed with the election of officers. I open the floor to anybody who wants to nominate for president.
Chairman.
Chairman, I'm sorry. Too many organizations.
I recommend Bill Strand as the chairman of this commission.
I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion for Bill Strand and a second. Any other nominations from the floor? Any other nominations from the floor? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
All right. Now we will elect the vice chairman. Any nominations for vice chairman?
No, our current is Dennis McCoy, yeah.
Nobody wants to speak up.
I'd like to make a nomination for Mr. Paul Grossman for vice.
Okay, we have a motion for Paul Grossman for vice chairman. Do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other nominations?
Please.
Any other nominations?
Do I have to get on my knees and beg?
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
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 All right. Thank you. I'm usually here, Paul.
Thank goodness.
All right, so next item on the agenda is the consent agenda. Does anyone object to approval of the consent agenda?
Other than we'll talk at the end on the January 2nd meeting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Hearing no objection to the consent agenda, it will be taken by common consent. Takes us to public hearings. No, I'm sorry, none. Citizen comment period for any item not subject to an advertised public hearing. We don't have anybody. Does this need to be read into,
Yes, it does. We have no one signed up, but we do have one written letter that needs to be read into the record.
This letter, dear Ms. Nunes and Cape Charles Planning Commission, this is a letter in support of the possible use of 645 Mason Avenue as a commercial bank within the CR district. Taylor Bank is the only bank headquartered and focused on the 3, and now hopefully 4, Delmarva coastal countries. As a Taylor Bank customer of 45 years, we know Cape Charles will be well served by a local bank that invests and loans in our peninsula. Sadly, there is currently no financial institution that will accept commercial deposits within the town of Cape Charles after the PenFed takeover of NFCU on Mason Avenue. The proposed bank will greatly help foster business growth and additional employment opportunities in Cape Charles. Thank you for your consideration in this matter. Sincerely, Mark A. Pugh, Kookaburra LLC. That's it.
Okay, thank you. Next is unfinished business, we have none. Next is new business, we have none. Next is report of officers and committees. 9A is sign subcommittee review and discussion of proposed sign ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you know, since mid-July, when we provided some information to you relative to our sign ordinance and some accompanying documentation for your consideration, you chose to form a sign subcommittee, which is comprised of Bill Ashworth and Shannon Smith and myself as their staff, to review the draft model sign ordinance that we obtained from the Virginia Local Government Attorneys Association. So we've met, I don't know, 7, 8 times over the last 5, 6 months. We've met a bunch of times. That's all I can remember. In working our way through the draft model ordinance, and we have now hopefully incorporated all of our thoughts at this point that it's reflected in this document, and now get your input. I will tell you there were a few items that we still felt we were unable to reach a final decision point on. We have given some guidance in this document, but we really wanted to call attention to those and get your input on those specifically this evening. And the 5 that I pointed out were for flashing, moving, and or animated signs, billboards specific to being located separate from a commercial establishment, temporary signs, dimensional specs, and types of signs by zoning district, which are contained under sections 11 through 14 of this draft. This is a totally new function, which is not in our current ordinance done this way by zoning district, showing the dimensional information right there. So I do think that's an improvement in this proposal. And then there are a couple items that still need to be filled in as we work our way through. One was the multi-tenant signage. I just highlighted that just because we knew we wanted to include something in it, that language I didn't have when we finished our subcommittee work. I added that in after the fact. And then we also want to ensure we have something compliant with dark skies. Once we figure out the dark skies language is going to be in our primary zoning ordinance. So just as a final reminder to everybody, why are we doing this at all? Back in 2000, I think it was 15 or 16, there was a Supreme Court case called Gilbert, Town of Reed versus Gilbert versus the town, I don't know. I think it was, I wrote this to you just yesterday, didn't I? Sorry, Bill.
Reed v. Town of Gilbert.
Reed v. Town of Gilbert, thank you. In which the U.S. Supreme Court basically ruled sign ordinances that are structured from a content-based perspective are illegal. They view it as an infringement upon freedom of speech. And yes, that's a big part of the way our current ordinance reads, so we needed to revamp our ordinance to bring in compliance with federal law. And what that means is they don't want us to have categories of political signs are going to be this way. Specific types of temporary signs, of yard sales, this way. Those are content-based signs. So we had to create more generic themed categories here, that any of that content information is not important to us. We don't, I can tell you right now, for the last 2 years since I've been with you, working for you, when we are reviewing sign applications, I don't look at any of the content that is being proposed for inclusion on any sign application right now. It is all solely based on, does it meet historic district standards? Does it meet sign size in relation to the building itself? And how is it going to be affixed onto the property? Is it hanging from the building, or is it going to be a stand-up sign or a monument sign? And does that comply, staying out of public pedestrian traffic ways, things of that nature? So So to date, while our ordinance has not been in compliance, we're not enforcing our current ordinance as it relates to content-based signage. We have been keeping within the constraints of federal law. So with that said, we really do want to go through this section by section, and I'm actually going to turn most of this over to Bill and Shannon to kind of walk us through this, if you are okay doing it.
I'll try.
Perfect. And we'll stop just at each section, and if you have thoughts or comments, or you want some further explanations to where the committee was thinking, I think all of us are prepared to weigh in on that.
Yeah, so, yeah,
I had one leading question. Right now, in Article 4, we have a sign ordinance that's 5.4.2 or something like that.
Yes.
And my question is, do you see this as being a separate article, or do you see this taking its place in 5.2, meaning that all the language, not the language, the headers and what have you to change?
That- We will, if this draft sign ordinance is acceptable with whatever tweaks we make after tonight, and then we will bring it to town council, et cetera, it will then be inserted into Article 4 of our general zoning
All right, and then
ordinance.
all the headers and all
totally-
that
yes.
changes?
And it will
Okay,
totally,
that's all.
the current Article 4 sign ordinance will go away in entirety.
Right, okay, good.
Yes.
yeah. So I was just going to say, so just to follow up on what Katie was saying, I mean, I think, and it's important for us to get your feedback as to whether this is going in the right direction thematically as to, I think, how the town wants to address the sign issue. The current draft takes the approach where it requires a permit, and then it lists out a number of exceptions to the permit requirement. And then it regulates the permitted signs based upon the criteria that Katie was mentioning, which are content neutral criteria. So we're talking about things like location, duration, distinguishing between freestanding signs and signs attached to buildings, lighted and unlighted signs. Again, all having to do with materials is another one, the size of the sign, all having to do with aspects of the sign, setbacks, what have you, that don't address the content of the sign. You know, when we read over the document, you know, you'll see some language throughout, you know, particularly, for example, in the general provision section. And, you know, this is just sort of, you know, sort of introductory language to sort of explain the purpose and what the thinking was behind the draft. You know, my personal take is that the document is, you know, in a way, I guess you could read it as kind of being restrictive. I mean, the opening language talks about how, and I'm scrolling to it now, signs obstruct views, distract motorists, displace alternative uses for land, and pose other problems that legitimately call for regulation. I think we've struck a balance in the draft that sort of recognizes that there could be some concerns with, you know, older signs that could be non-conforming, that haven't been kept up in repair, that are sort of, you know, a traffic, could cause traffic issues. But I think if you know, when you work through it, I think the important thing, at least for us, and I'll look forward to what Shannon has to say as well, is that we balance those legitimate sort of public safety and aesthetic concerns with, you know, the benefits of signage and advertising to the business community, who my guess would probably, you know, want us to strike the right balance to allow them to sort of, again, you know, have an ample opportunity and a reasonable opportunity to promote their businesses in the town. So with having said that, I'll turn it over to Shannon if she has any opening comments.
Yeah, so am I too loud?
Nope.
I can't hear an echo. Okay. I wanted to say that, you know, when Bill and Katie and I reviewed this, we really tried to make sure that the sign rules and regulations weren't overly onerous, that they were supportive of a vibrant community that aligned with the strategic plan, And we're also supportive of new business ventures coming into town and existing business ventures and their continued operation. So we try to keep in mind businesses, the residents, the historic nature of the town, and, you know, try to keep all that in mind when we went through this. So we think we've reached a pretty good balance. We look forward to your review. Did you hear any of what I said?
Yes.
We did.
We got it all.
Okay, good.
Sorry, I got an echo going on with the two TVs on, so I'm just trying to mute one of them.
Okay.
Okay, we should be good now. Okay,
And I wanted to let the commission know, thank you as well for letting me attend this virtually and being supportive, and my apologies to Bill for not being there to sit next to you with us tonight.
We're glad you're with us.
Yeah, I'm just glad you're here.
okay, so if we can go through the first article or section 1, does anybody have any questions, issues, or changes you would consider in items A through G?
I have 2 comments.
Sure.
Okay. Now, on B, it says signs not expressly permitted as being allowed by right or by special use permit under this article. I didn't see anything in this thing mentioned special use permit. Am I wrong in that?
And no, they don't. It actually should be called conditional use permit.
Well, even so, but if there's nothing in here,
There are abilities under our general zoning ordinance that would allow for site plans to contain a signage plan through a conditional use permit.
okay.
So you're correct, we need to get rid of special, because we don't do special use permits, we do conditional use permits. Thank you for catching that.
So that is mentioned in section 3F, the special exceptions, comprehensive sign plans as part of a conditional
Okay.
use permit.
Yep.
And then my next comment on that is E. These regulations distinguish between portions of the city, town, county, town designed for primarily vehicular access and portions of the city, county, town designed for primarily pedestrian access. I don't know what that means. I couldn't find anything that separated that. I know signs, okay.
Yeah, so again, we wanted to ensure that there are some signs that are more appropriate when you're in a car traveling, and so they're designed to hang a certain height or be a certain size or dimension. There are others that are more appropriate if you have more of a pedestrian type commercial district or commercial center. And so we wanted to ensure we are designing signs to meet that need as well. That's
Okay,
all.
that's fine, but
Yeah.
I think that needs to be for the layperson, and I guess I'm a layperson because I didn't catch that, so somebody that, resident might need to be, you might need to put something else in there to mention that this is from a vehicular aspect and then a person that's walking, so.
We can clarify this provision.
Those are my comments on A through G. Anybody else?
Yeah,
I would agree with you, Bill, because I literally saw a sign this past weekend that was designed for pedestrian traffic, and it was on 184, that there's no way if you were driving at a posted speed, you could even read it. So, yes, I understand what this means. I'm not sure this is clear enough to say
That-
that,
Sure.
you know?
Well,
yeah, just on B, the governing body aspects, are you looking to really bring this to town council? Because if it's town council, it should be inserted there, but I'm just questioning if somebody takes issue with the conditional use permit determination, are we going to have other, expressly allowed by town council or board zoning appeals? Is that even applicable?
Sure. So again, if we are keeping this to have that allowance through a conditional use permit plan, so for example, the harbor is one of those areas that requires, for many of their uses, a conditional use permit to be sought, as well as harbor development review board, and as part of that, they can include a sign planage as part of that entire site plan consideration for a project on a piece of property around the harbor. If that is the case, and I think that's where we're still headed, we're keeping all those provisions elsewhere in the zoning ordinance as well, then yeah, I would be changing that language to say, or otherwise expressly allowed by the town council, because that is the ultimate governing body who would review conditional use permits.
All right, but the statement here implies town council will issue some sign guidance regulation, perhaps, as opposed to being through ordinance changes, right?
It's actually by a permit, through a conditional use permit process, that's issued by town council.
But no, conditional use, you expect all signs to be coming through conditional use permits through,
No.
okay, so that's what I'm saying, where is the?
Signs not expressly permitted as being allowed by right in this zoning ordinance, or by conditional use permit under this article, by specific requirements in another portion of this chapter, or otherwise expressly allowed by the town council or Board of Zoning Appeals are forbidden. So again, as I mentioned, the site plan ordinance of our zoning ordinance talks about certain requirements that come in with a development plan. And you require a site plan on all of your use developments, and in particular, some of those use developments require conditional use permit that must be granted through going to the planning commission and then the town council. And a couple of them require going to the harbor area review board as well, because they have an overlay district that encompasses that. If that's not clear enough, then I can rewrite that section to make it really clear that through a conditional use permit process, you may be allowing certain expansions of sign regulation under that conditional use permit. Yes.
Okay, I think you need to
Okay.
just clarify what's,
But that is the intent, while these
because
are.
I'm looking at town council, I don't expect to see somebody coming to me
Not
relative.
just a sign alone, no.
Right,
No.
and that's
It would be
where I'm
part of a- It
saying,
would be part of a larger development proposal to you through a conditional use permit process.
right,
So if somebody was looking, say, to put a hotel and casino. I love my casinos. That would be a conditional use permit application to the town. And as part of that process, I would require them to give a full site plan. With the site plan, they would have to give me their lighting plan, their landscaping plan, their stormwater, their erosion sediment control, their vehicular and pedestrian access onto the property and off the property, and as well as a signage plan.
all right,
Have
so,
to be inclusive of that entire application for the planning commission's consideration and the town council's consideration, yes.
so when we came back and we were saying we're going to modify the language to say conditional use permit, I don't even know if that's appropriate. It's a permit, a sign permit. When we go into permit required, there is no conditional use aspects to it. It's a permit, somebody fills out and submits.
Under the basic standards today, that's why I'm trying to stress to you, elsewhere in our zoning ordinance, there are requirements
Yeah,
that
I understand
drive
what
it,
you're saying.
which can include the ability to the applicant to petition for increased or enhanced signage outside of
Right.
these regulations.
Okay, so in my mind, the very first sentence should read, signs not expressly permitted as allowed by right or by permit, right, sign permit.
Okay, we can write it that way, or by.
Because that's all that's in this article is a sign permit, doesn't
Yeah.
talk, right?
That's right.
All right, and then just generically under E and F, to strike out the city and the county, it appears a couple times throughout.
Yes, we'll fix that.
I know this is generic in nature. That's all I have.
And my only, I mean, just to repeat myself, my only question that I wanted to pose to the planning commission, and this is more sort of, again, thematic and getting to the purpose of intent of the statute. You know, you know, if anybody has to sort of review a conditional use permit through the lens of the statute, you know, I thought the first sentence in A, section 1A, almost sort of characterizes signs as almost a public nuisance. I mean, it just, it almost sort of strikes me as a public, you read this right off the bat and you say to yourself, this is a public nuisance ordinance. And we're trying to regulate a public nuisance appropriately. Is that thematically and tonally, in all of your opinions,
Well,
the theme that we want to kind of strike with this statute, that signage is something that needs to be, you know, heavily regulated, or that it's a problem for the town, that it's something we're getting a lot of complaints about, or is this just something whereby, you know, we're just trying to put some guardrails around an existing practice? Because I think that could matter down the road if, you know, if this, you know, if the ordinance is ever sort of interpreted by a judicial body, or, you know, in the future through legislation,
Well,
through amendments to the ordinance.
Well, signs inform too.
That's my point.
So, I mean, and so, they do inform, and, you know, and without them, it's just like, you know, rules, you know, we have rules for a reason. So, I take Mason Avenue, and the tourist that comes in and has never been to Cape Charles, and they see sign, if they look down Cape Charles and they see signage down, that's freezing, hanging, and you can see it, you say, oh, okay, you know, I wanna go down this side versus that side, you know, that's informs to me.
I entirely agree with you, Bill, and I just know that different people, you know, people have different opinions on signage. Some people absolutely hate advertising.
Well-
They hate
But
signs.
on the flip side, and I would say the reason you start off with that, I won't call it negative language, but as you're talking that first sentence, it is to say there is a legitimate reason why we feel a need to regulate, is because signs can be a distraction, can cause some impediment. And so we do want to ensure that we are having some oversight of signage to our community, because they have been known to obstruct views, to distract motorists. While there may not be within the town itself, but it's also been known, some people will just rent out the property for a large sign,
I agree.
things of that nature. So I think there is a reason to really articulate why we're even regulating signs to begin with.
And we do that. We do that in the next sentence. So
No.
Why wouldn't we just strike that sentence?
that would be my
Or
recommendation.
just add may?
I was thinking strike the first sentence, because if you read the second sentence, it talks about regulation, size, illumination, material, protect property values, character of the neighborhood, attractive community, protects instruction, safety and welfare of pedestrians and traffic.
If you want to
Goes
strike it,
through all of
strike it.
those things. I just want to be mindful of when we sort of present this to the council, and most importantly to, you know, to constituents, to stakeholders, particularly business stakeholders. I don't want to right off the bat have them read this in the first line, give them the impression that this is a real problem, your signs are a real problem, this is a public nuisance, and we're going to, and I might be overreading.
I don't think you've said public nuisance at all.
No, I know we haven't. But that was the first phrase that popped up in my head when I read the first sentence. And again, this is just optics. You know, this is in large part optics. It could be, you know, again, you know, getting down the road, if somebody's reviewing this and says to themselves, well, what did the town really want to do here? What is their overall objective, and how do they feel generally about signage? Again, I just put that out there for, you know, to get people's blood pressure as to, you know, how they feel about this issue generally.
I have a question, then. This article in section 1, the title is findings. It seems the first sentence is findings. So otherwise, it's purpose and intent and interpretation. So the question is, are we required to have
Nope,
findings?
this is in the draft
as
model
part of
ordinance.
So, Right, and this draft model ordinance was put together shortly after Gilbert. I spoke with Marty Krim about this. So this is about 10 years old, and Katie did a great job like going out and finding model language in other town ordinances that we thought would be consistent with the nature and character and comprehensive plan of the town. Obviously, you know, what's good for Alexandria may not be good for Cape Charles,
Well, I
right?
would recommend that maybe we just drop findings in the first sentence, because it is the purpose and
We can
intent
do that.
of this general provision. And
Yep, I agree
it
with that.
states it well.
I agree.
I think we're all in agreement.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else in section 1, A through G? Last call.
Okay.
Do you want to dive right into definitions, or do you guys want to pause for a second on definitions and actually get into the heart of the ordinance, and we can refer back to definitions if you are unclear with particular terminology used?
I like your second way.
So, let's just go right into section 3, permits required. So again, in general, a sign permit is required. There are some exceptions that we're gonna talk about here shortly, but in general, a permit is required. We walk through the process of an application for permit, permit fee, and duration of it. And I'll stop right there and see if you guys have any feedback, comments, thoughts on any of those first 4 sections.
Just a question relative to fee. And it's later on when we talk code official. Are we going to have one fee for a sign that includes both a building permit as well as a sign permit?
Building permit fees are separate. Sign
I'm
sign
asking,
fees-
okay, so a person, if they build a sign that falls under the building code,
He does not regulate, he does not require a building permit for any sign.
okay, well, we'll talk about that then when we get there. That's
Yeah.
my problem, is we have statements in here that they will be built to the uniform building code.
I know.
And if that's the case, that's not your purview, but it is the code official.
And the code official does not issue any building permits for any signs.
Okay, then we'll talk about striking that when we get to it, all right?
I will say that I think there's a need to put that language in there, and we'll talk about that, why I think there's a need to have that language, even if he will not issue a building permit.
Well, that doesn't mean that we can't dictate through planning commission and town council
Yes.
that we will.
Yes.
And if we have statements, we'll have to back it up for that, okay?
Okay. Anybody else have any comments or things you want to change in the first 4 sections under section 3? Okay, moving on to the last 2 items. So yes, there are overlay district regulations that make these applicable as well. So both in the historic overlay district and the historic district review board. They will have oversight except when a sign permit is not required as provided in section 4. So again, we have some overlapping language in their prospective overlay district sections, which is Article 8 and 9 of our zoning ordinance that deal with those overlay districts. And then we also provide what's called special exceptions. It means the exact same thing, just so you know this under the law. Special exceptions equals special use permits equals conditional use permits. It is an interchangeable term in the Code of Virginia. However, the Code of Virginia actually uses special exceptions as their primary term, so we're using that. And we have now talked about this. So a comprehensive sign plan may be approved as part of a conditional use permit in commercial, heavy, and light industrial and harbor districts. And it talks through what that process could be. So the only thing that can't be modified outside of this ordinance is the height. That's the only, I think, limiting factor that we made sure that cannot be modified through a conditional use permit. The height is gonna stay consistent regardless. Everybody okay with all of section 3.
Should it also include size?
The reason we left this clause in here, because again, I'm starting to think about what developments could come forward around the harbor of really some large undeveloped tracts of land that we have right now on the books. And so far, when we did our work as a committee, we really referenced back to what's here today and looking at size and types of signs and how we should be presenting them. It makes it really hard to figure out what are we not thinking about as a development that could come here. And so a conditional use permit gives some flexibility to, through a public hearing process, that maybe there needs to be a little more creativity in the type or size or structure of what a sign looks like. Maybe it needs to be more graphically demonstrated. I can't think of the Google sign right now, but I think it was the G, I don't know. Yeah, so it made us struggle, so we wanted to at least provide some way to deal with situations we haven't envisioned yet.
I brought up that question because height is important, obviously. But do we want a billboard size sign throughout the Harbor District or anywhere else in town?
I'd say no.
And I would say no as well, so I would think maybe we need to put a size requirement in this as well.
So, Katie, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think if we go down to section, it's renumbered, section, well, if you look under Division 2, sign regulations by use and district, section 13 is now industrial district signs. I think you'll see there that there is and there's also a section 14 for harbor district signs, by the way. So it does have a maximum height, square footage limitations, maximum numbers, setback requirements for freestanding wall, flags, monument, and temporary signs there. I mean, if you, I don't know if that gets to the, trying to see if that gets to the definition of the billboard issue that you just raised, Jim. But, I mean,
Just so you're aware, in our zoning ordinance, we have a maximum height of 40 feet for structures. So there's a potential, somebody could come forward to us with a plan, maybe they want to put a 40-foot tall building or 42-foot tall building, and we're saying, and as part of that, they want to put the sign embedded into the brickwork. And we're saying it can't be any greater than 40 feet, that it cannot exceed the allowance in the zoning ordinance. That's it. Could it be taller than the max height signs that we're proposing in this document today? It is possible that could happen through a conditional use permit, through the town council and planning commission, yeah. If you don't wish for that to be there, then this is what we should be striking.
yeah.
So the way you just said that, and the way I read that, is that your max height on any sign is 25 feet.
No, it could be 40 feet.
Because that's the maximum.
That's the maximum
That's the max.
height in our
If there's a
zoning
door on the
ordinance.
side of the building that's 40
Yeah,
feet
this
tall.
max height is not off the ground floor. This max height is the height of your
The sign.
sign. That could be 15 feet off the floor to start with. That's what I'm hearing.
Yes.
All right.
But I think, I'm agreeing with you, billboards as standalone signs, in my mind, should not be permitted. Anywhere,
We have one billboard,
which is where?
which is on 184 coming in.
That's on the county side.
No, it's not. It's on our side.
Which,
I'm talking about the one right before the brewery.
Right before the brewery, isn't it?
it's actually on the county.
So-
That's correct, it's
In
county.
addition to the height, there's the overall size restriction. So the largest size allowed is 20 square feet, which is 4 by 5.
Right.
So just to make it clear, you can't get a 20-foot by 10-foot tall billboard because it would exceed the maximum size.
But you could, through a conditional use permit as part of a larger development plan, if we keep that language in here.
And remember, in the prohibitions, section 5, there is language that limits the height of a freestanding sign to 25 feet. And if you look at the definition of freestanding sign, and I think we talked about this, Shannon and Katie, in our meetings, freestanding sign, if it doesn't now, I think it was, the intent was for that to include billboard signs. Is that right, Katie?
Sorry, we lost power on my
Okay.
computer, so.
All right. Because if you look at the definition of freestanding sign, it's any non-portable sign supported by a fence, retaining wall, or by upright structural members or braces on or in the ground and not attached to a building. I mean, that sounds like a billboard sign to me, but we can make it more specific. So I'm in the definition, so I'm in section 5, prohibitions, right?
Can't do both.
Prohibitions, I
All right,
believe
we
it's
need to wait
subsection
until
E.
we get-
Yeah.
I gotta figure out,
Yep.
we're trying to get this back open. I'm sorry. No, I do not have the power cord. I'm sorry.
My plug wouldn't work.
Okay.
Do you want me to run? I can run and get it.
No, it's not here. My power cord is not in town hall. Oh, sorry. Can we call Shannon and have her participate by phone? I brought her phone number. You do?
Call her from the conference phone. That
Oh,
way it
that's
has the
right.
speakers.
Did you call her off of that phone? Just like
You
that was
got
on.
her number? Right here. So,
I apologize, sorry. I didn't realize that we're draining the batteries so fast.
wait a second here, I got, this is, right there.
Can you hit it, Bill? You need help?
Dial. Okay, so what is it?
623 225 6561.
It sure did.
It's not pushing documents, it's pushing a lot of data.
Shannon. Shannon,
Yeah, kick me off the
I know, well, what happened was the computer
Take
died.
take it off mute.
It's off the,
Okay. Sorry, my computer died. I can't video stream you anymore.
Okay,
we got you, we have you on speaker, so.
Thank you.
okay.
Okay, where were we now? I'm so sorry about all that.
So Shannon, we were just talking about, Jim and Paul both raised the issue of billboard signs throughout the town and the concern that we don't want 40-foot high billboards popping up all over the place under this ordinance. And then I referenced back to the prohibited sign, section 5, subsection E, which limits the height of any freestanding sign to 25 feet. And then I looked back at the definition section and mentioned that I think we had talked about this in our working group, that freestanding sign, or the concept of a billboard would be included within the definition of a freestanding sign. And I was just telling Jim and Paul that if it's not included, I think certainly we could massage that definition to address their concern.
Well, the freestanding under each of these use districts, okay, I don't cover it in residential. In commercial, I limit freestanding to 10 foot. In heavy and in light industrial, I limit it to 10 foot. And in the last harbor, I limit it to 10 foot. So I'm not sure why we're talking 25 foot in the prohibited section and not 10 feet. And it may be.
I can tell you
Go
why,
ahead.
because
Yeah.
we put that in early in the prohibited section. We didn't come back to the district regulation dimension stuff until the very last meeting, because we put it off as long as we could till we had that conversation. So, we
Yeah.
probably just didn't go back and check it for consistency.
All right,
No.
so my
I think you're
question
right.
is then, is on the section 5,
Yes, sir.
5 should be 10 feet? And again, 10 feet is the height of the sign itself, right?
That's right.
The top of the sign,
That's right. That's right.
not off the ground,
Yeah.
but the top of the sign.
Yeah.
Just so you're clear, Maureen, we're over on section 5,
We have-
A5.
because.
That should change from 25 down to 10.
I'm sorry, yeah, 5A5, not 5E.
25-foot tall sign is probably a billboard height,
Yeah,
to be honest.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
That's-
So, yeah, I think that makes perfect sense to make sure that the reference in section 5 is consistent with the references in sections 11 through 14.
Okay.
So we would strike 25 and, per Paul's recommendation, make it, it's up, 10, 15? I mean,
Well,
what
it's
makes,
gotta be
what makes sense?
consistent. It's-
Yes.
Okay.
No, but I'm saying is how high do you want the sign to be able to be?
Yeah, 10 foot to me is fine.
I would agree.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
Okay.
So back to
Mhm.
3.
F,
Yep.
special exception.
Yes, sir.
The size needs to be, at least the cross-reference in here, because height is specifically called out. So if nothing else, can we just put the reference to where the size is?
So you want to limit the planning commission and the town council, when they review a development plan, whatever that may be, not to have any allowances to exceed these regulations, period. Because that's the whole point of a conditional use permit. It would allow that flexibility to potentially change, based upon the development plan before you, what their sign representation will be on that.
Yeah,
development.
and I'm okay with that. I'm okay because it's gotta come through planning commission, it's gotta come to public hearings and town council in order to evaluate, and we can always come back and say, well, in Harbor District, we limit it to this, and you're proposing twice as, and we don't agree with it. Or
Right,
we
you
agree
could
with
say
the
no to
compromise.
it then, absolutely, you could say in your conditional use permit, no, your sign can only be this, you can only have this many signs, it can only be these types of signs. Or you could say, that's the kind of development we want, and that creative signage or
Yeah.
whatever it might be is appropriate based upon what they're proposing. I just don't know what that would be today.
Yeah, and honestly, this is kind of one of the themes that kept coming up in our working group session, is that, we don't have a crystal ball as to what the nature and the character of the particular district is going to be in the future, and what's sort of a reasonable starting point, and how much flexibility would we want to build into to the ordinance in order to, allow for, exactly the examples that Paul and
Well,
Katie were just talking about.
The whole issue for the conditional use permit process, if you continually to see it, you end up changing your ordinance to say, oh,
That's
we
right.
had it
That-
at 10
that's-
feet, now.
that's right.
let's make it 15 so we don't have to worry about seeing this type and allowed by,
That's right.
We're getting a legal review, aren't we, on this?
I can't, what'd you say?
He asked if are we getting a legal review on this?
Eventually, when the
I mean-
entire draft zoning ordinance is
Yeah.
finished by town council and the planning commission and public input, yes, it will go to our attorney for him to make sure we're okay.
Yeah, because
Yeah.
the business with First Amendment rights and all like that.
Yeah, and again, right now, at this point, this came from the model ordinance from the Virginia Local Government Association. So I don't think at this
Yeah,
point, they're
okay, but-
proposing anything that's in violation of
That's not-
the law as
okay,
we know
so
it
that-
today,
Yeah, that
So.
should give you the protection.
so.
So I think Paul's idea of maybe we go from 10 to 15, and that becomes the maximum. And then if anybody is less than that, we stay within the guidelines. And the exception is to go more than that. Right?
right, but right now, I'd limit it to just what's in here. I'm
To
I'm not
10.
looking to make it,
Which is both height and size. If you want, if someone wanted
right,
to build-
there's the criteria. If you want
Here's the
to
criteria.
exceed it, you come visit us
Yes.
That's right.
through a conditional use permit.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
I think we're all agreed on section 3. So the conditional use permit section, or the special exception section of section 3 will stay in there. And you're all okay with the language that's there?
Yes.
Okay. Moving on to permits not required. Again, the temporary needs some discussion, but here we go. So we recognize there are some signs that just no permit should be required. So signs erected by a governmental body or that are required by law, such as speeding signs, things of that nature, or directional signs. Flags up to 16 square feet, and again, we talked about that.
No, let me add a question on that.
Yes.
This is not containing any commercial advertising. So I'm looking at, and we say flags, but I look at feather signs. They don't typically have, they're trying to draw your attention to your particular establishment or church. I look across at the Baptist church, my house, and they have Vacation Bible School, and they put occasionally more than one feathered signs up. Is that what we're looking for under item 2?
Our definition of a flag.
No, it's
reads,
different, right? Go ahead.
Our definition of a flag means a piece of cloth or similar material, typically oblong or square, attachable by one edge to a pole or rope and used as a symbol or decoration. This includes pennants. We have a different definition for feather signs. Those read, a lightweight portable sign mounted along one edge on a single vertical flexible pole, the physical structure of which it may resemble a sail, bow, or teardrop. So no, we do not view as a feather sign to be a permit not required type sign. It is not equal to a flag.
So will it come under, and we'll talk about when we get to temporary signs, perhaps a temporary sign, and one of these items may
potentially-
envelope.
It potentially could come under temporary signs, so. But flags, we meant a US flag, a Virginia flag.
Yeah, it's pretty obvious when you say not containing in commercial advertising.
Yes, that's what we meant. So if somebody wants to put up a flagpole at their house or part of the business, or we want to put it on public property as part of a park, those things could happen naturally, no permits required.
So let me put my military hat on here, and most of the state flag, or the US flags that are flying here are 3x5s. That's 15 square feet. However, there is a 4x6 flag, and it is appropriate. And matter of fact, the size of the flagpole usually dictates the size of the flag. So, like the flagpole down on the beach can easily support a 4x6 flag, all right? The one at the War Memorial has had a 4x6 flag there, but because of the trees there, it got hung up in the trees. So,
So you think we should increase this to 24 square feet?
I do,
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
That's a garrison flag, isn't it? The 4x6?
Yep.
yeah.
Because we have that flag too.
And if you guys don't mind, are most of them 4x6, not 3x8 or something of that
No,
nature?
they're
So
3x5, 4x6.
I may, just so it's really clear, flags up to 24 square feet and then put in parentheses 4x6. Just so, I wouldn't know that, I'll be honest, just so we're clear in the office
Okay,
for our
that's fine.
staffing purposes, okay?
Okay.
And then number 3, before we hit temporary signs, the changing of messages on marquees and the repairs of an existing permitted sign, except that repair of a non-conforming sign must comply with blah, blah, blah section. Everybody okay with that? Okay. So then we hit temporary signs. Have at it. Here we go. So temporary signs that we would, again, no permit required. You could have one sign, no more than 12 square feet in area, located on property where a building permit is active and a structure is under construction. So this is intended to allow the contractor or their subcontractors to be able to put their information out there so people will know who's doing this work.
All right, so I'm not opposed to this. I think this is fine. Although what's gonna happen is you have your main subcontractor, when an electrician comes, he hangs his sign. And we're gonna have to tell him, you can't hang your sign.
So do you wish to allow more than one? This is the question to you guys as the commission.
Well, whether it's one or two, you also, right now, the word has 12 square foot max. So I'm running into problems there too, measuring the 3 signs that are there and going, oh, you know, it's
Yeah.
17 square feet now,
Yeah.
and somebody's gotta go.
You bring up a good point, Paul, because conceivably you could have a general contractor.
They do.
sign,
That's right.
plumbing
Yeah,
contractor sign,
HVAC,
electrician sign,
right,
That's right.
HVAC comes, right.
Right.
Well, generally, the signs that will go up, your painters want to sign up,
Mhm.
your general contractor wants to put a sign up. Plumbing, I think, tends to want to put a sign up because they're there for a couple days.
No, these are temporary signs too. I mean, they're gonna come
HVAC,
down,
I haven't
so,
seen many of them want to put a sign up, I have to be
That's
candid.
right.
The HVAC, maybe an electrical contractor if it's a big enough job.
So a temporary sign is 90 days, right?
No, not in this case, it's the
Well, that's
length.
why I'm saying, but I thought I saw something where it said 90 days.
yeah, in the
It
definitions, it
depends,
does,
yeah, it does, you're
it
right.
does say in the definition section.
So, I mean, yeah,
Well, actually, it says for a limited period, and then we reference that limited period in the,
It would-
Okay.
So
In-
in this
in the
particular,
chart.
Right,
for
okay.
A, it would, those signs would stay up while it's under construction and while it still has an active valid building
so,
permit.
so my real point here is that, let's say there's new construction on a lot, and the builder puts up it's really not a temporary sign, it's a permanent sign. It's in the ground, on poles, and it's gonna take them
Yeah.
10 months.
During the life of that permit, yes,
Right.
during the life of
So
construction.
that's,
right.
but what we're saying here is that sign, if it's the one sign, is 12 square feet in area, which is 4 by 3. Which is okay.
yeah,
But then everybody else, you know, they come in there, they stick their little, really temporary signs, you
It's a
know.
real estate sign,
Yeah,
yeah,
I see.
that's right.
you know,
So
really,
if you want more than one sign allowed during a
Yeah. And the 90-day,
project, you need to
yeah,
tell me.
and I was mistaken. The 90-day limitation is for temporary signs on residential
Yeah.
properties.
It's not, there is no time limit.
That's
The time limit is associated as long as there's a building permit active.
Right,
And as soon as that building permit gets closed out and a certificate of occupancy is issued, then those signs need to go.
All right, but you gotta be careful because section 11 does have temporary signs listed and it limits it to 90 days.
yes.
So there's an inconsistency on that.
Well, but I think I think the ordinance speaks to 90 days in subsection D. Residential property, 12 square feet, removed within 90 days after being erected.
Where you pointing to?
I'm pointing to 4E. 4E. I'm sorry, 4D. 4D.
4D.
4D.
Section?
Our section we're
Section
looking at,
4.
section 4.
Right.
Section 4,
4D.
subsection D. And I believe that's reflected correctly in the chart that Katie's included in section 11, residential district signs.
of course, when you think of that, you say, how is that policed?
Well, don't even go there. Let's at least
Yeah,
figure out what our
that's-
rules are.
Right,
I mean,
I'm not denying, we've got some challenges here.
yeah.
okay, so let's get back to the one, the
We're still on
4A.
4A, so
So,
in construction.
I think, we need to have more than one sign for, when we have a building permit like that, because you're doing a disservice to all those subcontractors who are basically advertising that they're here. And-
Right.
and people drive by saying, oh, I needed a plumber. I'll look this guy up, or that, so, but it's gotta be, we gotta have something in there, I don't know, 3? Total of 3?
I wouldn't even put a number. I would just limit each sign no more than 12 square foot
Right,
each.
each sign.
Each.
Each sign could be 12 square feet.
Okay. Well,
Is that-
So would the
That's-
wording
Yeah.
be that we would
Yeah.
allow, one sign no greater than 12 square feet for the general contractor and subs?
Yeah, if you wanna be that
Yeah,
clear.
and this, yeah,
Well, that's kind of big for the subs. It's up to 12 square feet, those
Oh, they won't go out and get special signs made, they'll do the little
Yeah,
stick in the
which
ground
are-
and they
yeah,
can rip them
which are-
right back out.
which are like,
Okay, so,
6
so we
square feet.
won't say one sign, we'll just say the allowance for a sign for the general contractor and each subcontractor. Okay,
Each not being more than 12 square foot,
Yeah.
right.
right?
Okay. Got it. 4B.
All right, so this is the one I have the most heartburn. On property for rent, okay? This is now our short-term rentals sitting there with a sign on their property forever.
Yeah, we had a lot of discussion in subcommittee about that.
So I'm opposed, just flat out, I'm opposed to having those types of signs sitting on residential property. For sale is fine. You put a for sale sign up, I have no problems with that.
Well, you know, there's been a lot of confusion, going back to what you said, is like Chesapeake Properties is the big one. People see the sign, they think it's for sale, but out underneath it says vacation rental. You see, and it's really not for sale, it's a vacation rental. So
So you would drop out rent, and then you would fall within the limitations of subsection D, right? The 90-day limitation for the residential.
Well, we'll talk about
Right.
it when we get there,
Yeah, and then, right.
because I'll
so-
probably oppose that. too.
Or you could have, right, you could have, right,
Let's, Paul, how do we solve this then? Because
right.
if you allow a realtor sign as the property's being sold.
Correct.
It's sold, done out. What identifies, and we have quite a few, this is a vacation rental?
Well, we have a list of them now. We have business license list that lists all of them. The town has a master list of all short-term rentals.
So part of this, part of the committee conversation, I hope Shannon, you weigh in on this, but, I can tell you, what's the intent of signage? And so that's where I came from it is, are people really, obtaining or finding their short-term rentals
a sign.
by the signs located in town? I don't believe so.
No.
And so,
Yes.
go ahead, Shannon.
I was gonna say, I agree. They're not using the signs to find short-term rentals.
Do we have any, go ahead, Shannon, sorry.
That's right, I was just gonna say, people use Vrbo and Airbnb. I agree, maybe at one point in the early days, people would have seen that and said, oh, there's short-term rentals here, but, I don't think it applies now.
And there's no empirical evidence supporting that. We're just, because, I mean, and once upon a time, and things may have changed, right? I mean, once upon a time, I know that when Cape Charles wasn't as popular, that's exactly how people would find out about short-term rentals. Word of mouth, like Shannon just described, and, you know, being down here for the holidays, visiting friends and seeing, you know, those signs. And things may have changed. I just want to make sure that we're not, and I'm no expert in short-term rentals like Paul is.
I'm just
but I'm
looking
just-
at the proliferation of them
Yeah.
across the town, and they don't belong. It's a residential area,
Mm-hmm.
and they don't need constant advertising.
Because they don't seem temporary at all, they seem permanent.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
they
Okay.
They
Yeah.
absolutely seem permanent,
All
so I think in that regard, and Bill, you know how I feel on this, I was
I
not
do.
in favor of the rental being part of this.
You were, what?
I was not in
Yes,
favor.
no, yep. hmm
Okay, so it sounds like we're in
We're
agreement.
striking or
Rent.
rent from
Yep.
section B, okay? C, Official notices or advertisements posted or displayed by or under the direction of any public or court officer in the performance of his official or directed duties, and provide that all such signs shall be removed no more than 10 days after their purpose has been accomplished. Everybody good with that? Everybody understand it? Good. D, on residential property, one or more temporary signs with a total area of no more than 12 square feet and which are removed within 90 days after being erected.
Yeah, so this opens up the door again for somebody throwing a sign up for 90 days and waiting a week later and throwing it up again for 90 days and being exempt from permits. So I'm not looking for D to be,
Well, and it's not limited. One or more. And then I'm thinking, oh, I can put up 40
So,
signs for
Yes.
the upcoming election in my yard.
so
Yes.
to put up some of the examples that
correct.
we threw out in the committee. Lots of people name their house.
Right.
And
That-
they
that's-
do it through a sign. They put something over their door threshold, or they may
That's right.
have it right on the, as you're
Right.
coming up their steps. So,
That's a permanent sign.
well,
That's not a
so
temporary sign.
that's, we recognize that's one of the things occurring here, and we needed to find some way to
That's-
potentially deal with it.
That was in a different place. I think.
That may be the case, and so we can say it doesn't affect it over here. Then the next area came, was political signs. I wanna advertise, I'm supporting this cause, or this candidate, and you wanna put it up right now, which is well in advance of any election being conducted. So, that's another reason why we included this section. Have I missed, I think those are the two key.
No,
ones.
no, that's exactly it.
well,
And
then on D, then just insert temporary political signs.
Except you cannot have content-based
I'm not,
regulations, and political is content-based.
that was the discussion we had at the working group.
Yes.
Because
well,
now we're
I'm
getting,
not dictating what's on the sign.
That's right.
that was the
I'm just
argument,
dictating the sign itself.
that was the argument that the town of Gilbert used in the
know,
Reed case.
Either that or take D out.
I don't think anybody has been said, they say if you wanna put up political signs, you can put them up like 45 days prior, and then,
We have words to that.
and then they must be taken down within a week after the election.
But this is exactly what the federal case
Right.
was talking about.
That's
It
exact-
is now
that's
illegal.
exactly
You
the
cannot
argument
dictate based on a political
That the
sign.
town of Gilbert said, we're not,
So
right.
walk away, and I think the example I used for you guys in the committee meeting is forget Democrats and Republicans. What if somebody wants to put up a sign, I love hamburgers and I wanna eat them all the time? That's my political statement.
Yeah, yeah,
Or Google rules.
right.
That was another one I threw out at you guys. So, it could be not at all, or if it is,
So-
do we limit the size of the square feet? Do we limit the frequency of it?
Well,
Do we limit the
what I don't
numbers
want
and time
people
frame?
doing is backing into our rental signs again using item D.
Absolutely. So is this something that can be addressed in the short-term rental ordinance?
No, because we pointed to the signs here saying this will
Yes.
capture.
But we can cross-reference the short-term rental ordinance in
Well,
this ordinance,
we would
right?
have a pointer if it was a short-term rental to our sign ordinance, which gives the guidance for sign criteria.
I mean, you go anywhere now and you don't see places that say for rent. I mean, you just don't see that anywhere, for rent. So,
No, and we haven't even talked about, we do have several long-term rental units in town. How are they being marketed?
how do people, I don't think somebody's driving around looking for rental signs. They go to either.
They go to Zillow.
Yeah, or
There you
they,
go. So I just wanted to make sure we've raised all the considerations, so.
The concern I have is if, let's just say, we take D out. I also have D occurring in section 11 under the residential district.
That's right.
So whether I talk about it here or here, I still
Yeah,
have
we'd
the
have to do it
same
in both
concern
spots. I
as
get
to.
it.
Right.
Yep.
Yes, and so, polling everybody, do you want D in or out right now? Section D, on residential property, one or more temporary signs with a total area of no more than 12 square feet and which are to be removed within 90 days after being erected. Paul clearly is no.
I
Bill?
can't think of any examples that would fall under that.
Okay,
That would fall under no permit required?
Well, D, this section, as well as in section 11, I'm gonna ask the same question, because they're,
so
Well-
if somebody wants to do an estate sale,
So, but if,
or
all
a
right, go
yard
ahead,
sale.
a yard sale, go ahead.
Yard sale, estate
Right,
sale,
right.
moving sale, anything of that nature.
That would come under temporary, that's a good example.
the political signs during election season that Katie just referenced, that's another
I think of all the
example.
things I brought up in the committee, I
Right.
think these are all the big ones I hit, so.
I mean, look, I guess my approach to this is always, if you can narrowly regulate the specific harm that you're trying to regulate, instead of trying to regulate the entire field, then focus on the specific harm. So, Paul, would it make sense to put in something here directly speaking to rental signs?
But that's a content-based sign.
It might be, but remember, commercial speech
Well,
does
I
not.
already have in section 11 there, temporary signs include, so I have a caveat on what that does include.
That's right. Wait, where?
So it does, we have a
Under
bullet
the table, you have a bullet.
that says temporary signs include signs on property for sale or where a building permit is active.
Right.
So that just mimics the language that we just talked
It
about
mimics 4A, and it mimics,
as temporary, so
4B.
that's,
Good,
right.
that's, okay,
Yeah, notice you don't have or rent
correct.
under the bulleted
Right,
item. So,
right.
so A and B are consistent with 11 now.
So you can regulate rental signs, Katie, as commercial speech, because it isn't subject to the same scrutiny as political speech, but yeah. I mean, and I'm not, and I'm not,
saying
and I'm not,
it's a,
and I'm not saying it's gonna get litigated. I
Right.
mean, this is clearly an issue that if it were litigated, you might have a better argument for the restriction, but clearly that's not what we're talking about here.
so, as we come down to here, so I'm coming back to D again, so maybe we need to change the frequency, the 90 days. So if I'm using the example of a yard sale or estate sale or anything of that nature, even a political sign. So say it is a political sign, you wanna put up, vote that Democrat, vote that Republican who's in
Right.
running this next election.
Right.
Do you wanna limit the frequency? Because they are two different, for a yard sale versus a political would be two different timeframes associated with them.
Katie, why don't we just say for no more than 30 days and not to exceed more than 90 days out of the year? That would get rid of the Chesapeake long-term rental signs because they wouldn't be able to have them up all year round. If we did something along those lines, I think that would solve that issue of a permanent sign under the guise of temporary.
Yeah, I hope so.
So you said you could have one or more,
Or maybe we don't say or more, maybe it is just one. One sign.
One temporary sign, 30 days in length, for 30 days per period, not to exceed 90 days out of any 365-day
Right,
period.
in any 365-day period.
And then there's no way you can say this is a temporary sign and leave it in your yard all year round. but it covers election periods and it gives you 2 yard sales a year.
Well, you're assuming that somebody wants to put up a political sign.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm just saying. 3 seems reasonable. I'm not gonna put up a political sign, but
Yeah.
I'm just saying, 3 seems reasonable.
And in where I live, I occasionally have neighbors that do have yard sales every weekend, throughout the whole summer.
So now we've
Well,
limited them
yeah.
to 3 of them, 3, right?
So-
If that was the
most- yeah,
case,
and-
if-
But Katie, to your point, most yard signs now, they advertise those in Nextdoor or on Facebook.
Right,
So the yard signs aren't as useful anyway. So,
Plus, we never talked about our freestanding telephone pole here that you can put anything you want to on it.
Sample anything on it?
oh, the community yard, the community pole by the post office, yes.
Can you put in parens there some examples, as you had stated, exit sales, yard sales?
We could try it and see what happens. Yard sales, what else, estate sales?
Or maybe just say including but not limited to.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good catch there, Shannon.
So I want to make sure I heard this. On residential property, 1 temporary sign with a total area of no more than 12 square feet, in which are allowed for 30 days and up to and not to exceed 90 days out of any 365-day period. Examples in parentheses are including but not limited to yard sales, estate sales. Anything else you want me to write there?
Would you say political signs?
Why not? Let's just go for the gusto.
I don't know, I don't want to give people
I
ideas.
don't-
I say
yeah.
just leave it out.
All
I
right,
just, I think you're opening up a can of
Yard
worms
sales,
with that.
estate sales, we'll leave it at that as our example. Okay.
Do you want to actually, because if you want to put political signs, then wouldn't you just say rental signs?
I say just leave it with yard sales and estate sales.
Well,
Okay.
But
But you-
rental
but you-
signs
but-
could be.
But you
would
could,
then
that's,
be
and then
allowed.
you have the including but not limited to.
So.
Right.
So there are other things, this free speech stuff, somebody says, I'm gonna honor my spouse with a happy birthday sign
Right,
out there.
right,
Yes, you could.
exactly,
Yeah.
of course. Free Ukraine, right.
I married a moron. I can say that because I'm not married anymore. Sorry.
a question, Katie, with regards to residential property.
Yes.
This is in the R1 district, meaning I have churches that put signs up for various events or what have you. Is that-
The 10 signs aren't included in that. Right? Or are they?
That's my question
Katie.
is,
Well, this is, and this is one of
They are.
the areas that I think we need to, from a committee, we probably didn't go back and do one more vetting of this, because we were uncertain if we were gonna do dimensional information by zoning district or not. And then, as I said, we ended up adding that in at the very end of our meetings, where we added sections 11, 12, 13, and 14. So we may need to come back here and say, okay, it's not residential property, is in the residential zoning district.
right,
And
okay?
maybe some of this needs to be combined so that we're only looking for this in one spot when it's all said and done. So I think that's what we mean, in the residential zoning district,
I think that was the intent,
yes.
yeah.
Well, I still think that Paul brings up a good point about the churches, because, you know, they like to hang banners
Yes.
and.
But it's seasonal or, you
Right.
know, for whatever, I just look across, again, a week's worth of Vacation Bible School is advertised.
Right.
Right.
Or they have their splash camp or that stuff, and, you know, I think churches are, everything I've seen is, they have their main sign, and then they have like a temporary sign, a banner or something, and it's up. And maybe we need to to address those because we do have a lot of churches in the residential section.
So what if we said exceptions can be granted for non-residential use, non-residential properties within the residential district? Or something along those lines.
Well, here's what's gonna happen. You got, a church isn't even gonna know about this sign ordinance. And here, we're saying a permit is not even required. So that, it's gonna just be real headache to try to enforce, you know? You're gonna go talk to a church and go, oh, you get 2 signs hanging up. They go, what?
I mean,
What
look,
am I supposed to do here?
Right, I mean, we already have an exception for flags for non-commercial advertising, right? So, I mean, we're kind of in that space already. So I don't think we might just be expanding the scope
Okay.
of the non-commercial advertising
Yeah, 'cause
exception.
I don't think they're making money off those camps.
They're not.
They're not.
It's
It's nonprofit.
Right.
It's nonprofit.
So I would view that as a non-commercial advertisement.
Correct.
I'm with Bill, that's how I would probably rule them.
Right.
I only made my face because I don't want to be in charge of figuring out what the exceptions that can be granted.
Right.
Right.
So if you change it to residential property to zoning district, it captures that
Okay.
grouping of
Yeah.
So,
structures.
Yes.
okay, so in the residential zoning district, 1 temporary sign with a total area of no more, blah, blah, everything else is said, per property. Per property location. Okay. Moving on.
Window signs.
Nope, we're not there. Oh, yeah, window signs.
Yeah, we are.
Here we go. Keep going. I hadn't flipped fast enough. Window signs. Go for it, Bill.
Well, I mean, so we talked about, you know, making sure that we limited the number of window signs for safety purposes, for aesthetic purposes, and I think, Katie, it was mostly due to safety purposes. I mean, we don't want law enforcement to be able to sort of, you know, be able to patrol and see what's going on, for, obviously, so there's no theft or, in any event. So those would allow window signs so long as they don't obstruct 25% of the total area of all windows on each building facade.
So again, we're gonna phrase this so it's in the residential zoning district.
Right.
Window signs, provide the total extent of window signs do not obstruct more than 25%, et cetera, et cetera.
So if I had 6 windows on the front of my house, and those windows were 5 by 6, or let's say 3 by 6.
Right.
That's 18 times 6.
It's 108.
108, and so I get 25% of that.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
But that 25% could be spread out on various windows, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
So again, some of the examples we thought about, people may put up signs in the windows if they have people serving in the military, they want to put up signs there. Or maybe you do want to advocate a particular cause, or you want to put Merry Christmas or seasonal sort of message out there. A lot of people hang things in their window that way.
People put political signs in their
And they
windows
put
too.
political signs in their windows as well.
Well,
yes.
they're allowed in Bay Creek. That's the only place they're allowed. And is on windows. You can't, yeah, I've done that already. Yeah.
Okay, everybody okay with that one?
Yep.
Then the last one is we did give, again, permit not required. We gave a provision for town seasonal events. So that you can place temporary signage promoting town-sponsored seasonal events, festivals, or other marketing campaigns for the town up to 30 days prior to the event and must be removed 7 days after the conclusion of the event. Yes, the obvious ones were, of course, the summer concert park series. Festive Fridays has been another one. the Love Run, things of that nature. So that's what we were thinking of. Those are all town-sponsored, town-affiliated events. This has been in direct response because the town had about 2 years ago a lot of little minor signs pop up, especially right around Fig and Randolph, marketing, not a flea market.
Oyster Farm,
Oyster Farm,
events,
or
and farmers
something,
markets, yeah.
a farmer's market outside of the town itself proper, that was in the southern end of the county. And so I had heard that loud and clear when I was first knowing we were gonna do zoning ordinance revisions. That was put on my list early on. We wanna allow town events, but not some of these other types of events that may not be sanctioned by the town.
Okay, so there has been an Oktoberfest here the last 2 years. And it's a church-sponsored thing, but I'm sure that somebody's gonna raise a stink if they can't put their signage up. Yep, I'm serious.
I
You're
wonder
right.
who that might be.
So,
So that, yeah.
I mean, I think that the town, kind of embraces that, because I know that, put my other hat on, Main Street does, because we are the marketing arm of the town. And so, it's during the shoulder season, so it's good to try to bring in tourists, so, whatever, I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, the issue I raised during the working group, well, we all talked about, was whether or not 30 days was appropriate for planning purposes for things like Oktoberfest and Festive Fridays and the Love Run. It seemed a little short to me. I think, we all were concerned that whether or not we got the right runway to those events.
Most of the advertising for this stuff is done on social media and that way. It's not signage. The signage is used to direct traffic and things of that nature, so.
Or it's that final reminder, oh,
Right.
this is coming up, I really need to make sure I come to this, yes. So, I don't know what language you would propose, to address those other sorts of festivities that may fall outside of a town-sponsored event.
Well, each of those have to come to the town, right, for permits to close off the street in this particular case, or I need town staff for helping set up or take down, don't they have?
They did have to obtain, yes, so for example, yes, the Catholic Church, when they did the Oktoberfest, they had to come through the town, for a permit application so that the road could be closed. That got
Right.
submitted to VDOT.
Right.
VDOT finally approved that, and then the town was able to allow that application to proceed to close the road for the event to be held in the road. Yes. So potentially we could add language in here if.
For
if-
permitted events?
For any, yeah, for any permitted,
That's a good point. For example,
okay.
the decoy show in February. So, that's
Well, wait, does the decoy event require a permit?
No, that's held inside,
yeah.
And the permits for Oktoberfest, are they a permit for the event or the permit for the street closure?
I think it's all captured above.
it was with the event, it was an event as a whole because it was going to be out in public. There was, I think.
There was beer.
Was there beer? That's what I was gonna say. And so, yes, the town had to issue a permit for that event to occur in public space.
Okay.
So for instance, festive farms would fall right under this.
Yes.
Yes,
That's the
absolutely,
That's why we
absolutely.
created the.
That's
this
why we put it in
category.
there.
Yeah.
For all, yeah, Oktoberfest, Festive Fridays, Love Run, all the stuff that Main Street does.
Right.
Have we covered everything? I'm sure we have not thought of everything, and we're probably gonna hear more feedback as this gets rolled out to a larger audience, but are we okay at the moment to add that language in?
So just to clarify, Katie, so the exception will only be for permitted town seasonal events?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay? Other requirements, not more than 2 minor signs per parcel. I can't remember why we have this section in here, I'll be honest. Additional minor signs are permitted in certain districts with a permit.
Yeah, we don't cover the second sentence.
Yeah, I'm not sure we still
Anywhere.
need this section.
And what would you say is a minor, you know, we're talking 1 square foot,
So
what
minor,
would that be?
so minor signs are defined as freestanding and wall signs, if I remember correctly
They are.
from the definition
Not
section.
exceeding 1 square foot in area, not exceeding 4 feet in height, not
Because 1
illuminated.
square foot is 1 by 1, so.
That's right.
Yeah,
So,
it's small.
But it's not wall mounted, right? I didn't see wall mounted.
No,
no.
It means
it's
a
not.
wall or freestanding sign not exceeding 1 square foot in area, not exceeding 4 feet in height, and not illuminated.
1 by 1,
That's a minor
Right.
sign.
so this gives free reign on each property, could put or 2 signs, right?
Yes, 2 signs.
1 square foot signs. And I'm not sure what would fall into that.
I'm not either, and I'm struggling to remember.
I
any
can't
discussion.
recall either unless Shannon can.
No, I can't.
This may have
So,
been,
so could your sign, did it say how it had to be mounted?
No.
No,
no,
So your sign for your house sign,
could be that. Maybe
Could be
that's what
that.
it meant.
and you have it, it's hung from,
oh, yeah, that's right, I think,
Is that
I
what it
think, I
was?
think that was
So-
it.
so-
Right, it was the hanging signs, it was like how people name their homes,
Yeah.
like
It could-
Buttercup
Oh,
or,
yeah, yeah,
or whatever.
yeah, yeah.
Right, that, I'm sorry, that's right, Bill.
because you
That's
know,
exactly what it was.
those things are usually like, I don't know, 4 inches by 3 feet
Right.
or something like that, you know, which is
Right,
1 square foot or whatever.
right.
So maybe strike out the second sentence and put in those examples, name of
Yeah.
homes,
Or,
house numbers.
or you could just
Well,
include it,
house numbers is separate. Street
Right.
addressing is exempt from all of
Okay,
this.
so name of homes is an
Homes.
example.
so just put it in the definition, or we could just put it in the definition of minor signs.
Well, you don't want your criteria to be there, right?
So you want
In
me
the
describing what a
definition
minor
of minor
sign
sign,
is.
we have 1 square foot in area.
We have 1 square foot in area now,
yes.
not exceeding
Yeah,
4 feet in height and not illuminated.
So our examples are like naming of your house type signs.
Yes.
Right,
Okay.
I will
and
te-
you want me to strike the second sentence of number 6?
yeah.
Okay. Got it? Go ahead, Shannon, I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. I was just theorizing on size. If it was 6 inches by 2 feet,
Are
it'd be
you okay to
okay.
hang on for a few more minutes so we can get at least through this section?
Yeah, I'm okay. I'm actually good till the top of the hour.
Okay.
To happy hour?
To the top.
Yeah,
She's been at happy hour.
There's always happy hour somewhere.
A-frame signs more than 50 feet from the nearest public right-of-way. Again, is no permit would be required for that type of sign.
Right, and again, you guys know what this is.
So if I have an A-frame sitting at the Beach Street, books, right, directing traffic, or down Strawberry directing traffic, that doesn't fall under this.
No.
We're saying, an A-frame again is defined as a two-faced sign with
Right.
supports that are connected at the top and separated at the base,
Which is
forming an A.
sandwich board.
Sandwich
Not more
board
than
signs,
4 feet
right.
high, referred to as a sandwich board sign. They are included in the term portable signs.
But I need a permit, I'm
No.
not exempting.
No permit is
No
required
permit
for this type
required.
of
But that
For-
says 50 feet,
Yeah, it's got 50 feet.
50 feet from the nearest public right of way.
That's correct. So if you want to change any of that,
So.
So
that-
I'm asking for an
that's in
explanation
the-
of what is
that's-
that?
That's not 50 feet from the public right of way.
Right,
It's within the public right of way, or,
It's probably in the median.
it's on a sidewalk.
that's right.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so that doesn't count. So what do you,
fit.
So you'd have to do,
So if we would like these signs to be there, then we need to change the 50 feet
Right.
to something else.
well, you have it at the corner of Mason and Strawberry Street too.
Right, you have it in front of places like Love Letters, too.
Even though they even have signage on the pole, you know.
What
and-
about if we just take the number out, period, and just have a language that says, so as not to impede, pedestrian traffic and vehicular traffic?
A-frame signs,
Yeah,
Yep.
not to impede
pedestrian
or
and
vehicular.
vehicular traffic. And that way you don't have to specify within
The-
the
the-
50 feet.
They should also not be, well, I don't know if that'll work. I was gonna say they shouldn't be in the public right of way. But, yeah, cause that's the public right of way. I mean,
Are we,
all the sidewalks except maybe the last 2 feet of the building is right of way.
Half.
are we getting a lot of complaints from people tripping over A-frame signs? I mean, it seems a little,
Well, it's a proliferation again.
Yeah.
Do we need to control the amount of them? You'll have them on every corner going, oh, see, there's an advertisement, come down to my shop. Here's my menu, here's, you know,
yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
And then the other thing,
Yes.
another one is, that, again, like you
Well-
pointed out earlier, Oyster Farm, there on the corner of Fig and Stone, or Fig and Randolph.
yeah, but that's not A-frame, that's typical just banners or posters.
Or
Or sticking in.
or
the-
directional signs.
Well, those aren't directional signs. Those are, come to my business.
I think what Jim had said, not to impede,
Not to impede
yeah,
pedestrian or
it
vehicular
would be
traffic.
crazy
Okay.
over
Okay. That's
A-frame
fine.
signs, yeah.
Okay. Pavement markings, that's a pretty easy one right
Yep.
there. And then a permanent window sign.
So the pavement marking, basically, the only thing I can think of is like a number. Is that what we're talking about? What are we talking about there?
I don't remember our examples, I'm sorry, give me a second. You could, I can't think of one here because we don't have any right now, but hotels. Some hotels will put their logo on the ground. Some of your businesses will put their logo on their pavement for parking, things of that nature. So we just wanted to make it really clear, if you're going to have that on your property, that is considered still a sign, but we're not saying a permit would be required for that. So say, for example, when somebody may fully develop the property down in front of the harbor on Mason, they may want to put their logo in the ground, in the pavement. So it's part of their entire
Okay, all right.
package.
Okay.
Yep.
And then, of course, we mentioned that you could have a permanent window sign, same thing.
Well, the language is a little different here,
I agree.
right?
Yes.
25% of the total area of the particular window that it's hanging, or the particular door that it's hanging, not the aggregate of all windows and doors.
That's right.
So this is a permanent as opposed to temporary when we're talking above.
And again,
Right.
I don't think we ever meant this in the residential zoning district.
No.
We meant this in the commercial zoning district. So do we still need this particular section here or not, or is it covered if we are doing dimensional regulation sections?
So these are people like Drizzles and Moonrise and,
Yes.
right?
Yeah, I'd say in commercial district and add that,
Yeah, I'd say that too.
that they don't need a permit. That's what you're essentially saying. In commercial districts.
Okay, so instead of having it, or we could keep it here and say, cross-reference it so it says it both both
Well, you have
sides.
it also under section 12, the top of the next page. You got the table, and then you have window signs.
Right.
Yes.
So it's already there, so you may want to just strike.
We just need to make it clear that no sign permit is required if you're gonna have a window sign.
That's why it's under this section
Yes.
also. So both sections may be applicable.
So I
Put
need
what?
to cross-reference and fix it in both spots. Cross-reference the section.
In 9, we'll just tell you, for that condition, I don't need a permit.
Right.
Right. Section 12.
Section 12
Yep.
just reminds you
Yep.
of
Right.
the limitations.
Right.
Okay, I'll just
Yep.
make sure we're consistent in both spots.
Yep.
Got it. I'm gonna stop for a second. Do you guys wanna continue, or is now a good breaking point for tonight?
I'm all right to break, I'm all right to continue.
The premise
Yeah,
signs.
Five is pretty long.
I think the premise sign section raises at least one thorny issue with regard to off-premise signs.
Why don't we wait on the signs and go to the remaining thing we need to
We can do that.
figure out?
I didn't hear what she said.
Just to skip over 5 and go to the remaining sections.
Go to the,
Section 6, measurements of sign area and height.
Yep.
Okay, so is
I
that,
just meant the last thing on the agenda. Sorry, not.
Sorry.
Pause the review of the sign.
so
Sorry,
let's stop the
Shannon.
sign
And go-
ordinance revisions for tonight, here.
Okay.
Everybody okay
Yeah.
with that?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yes.
Perfect. 'Cause I'm getting
Okay.
a little brain fried.
Okay,
Okay.
What the rest of
so
you-
that's good. Then our next item on the agenda is the standing staff reports.
Yes. Let me get myself back together. Okay. In my staff report, under BZA, we have actually no hearings coming up. I am calling them into a meeting in January so that we take care of some administrative issues from the BZA perspective. I have nothing filed for harbor development or wetlands and coastal sand dune boards. The new one that has come in is we have received an application to the Historic District Review Board to move a house from 645 Mason to 602 Washington. I am making you aware the reason for that house move request is coming because if that is approved, I believe there will be submitted formally a full application to locate a drive-through bank at 645 Mason and the associated lot next to it. This is all zoned commercial residential. Under that zoning ordinance, it says, while a bank is not expressly listed by right, I do find that would be a commercial use compatible in nature and complementary to the CR district, and specifically to this location within the CR district, which is adjacent to the Kellogg building, which is in the process of being converted into a restaurant, and this is also across the street from Rayfield's Pharmacy. Under the zoning ordinance, it requires the concurrence be obtained from the planning commission with my determination of this use within this district. I've enclosed the statement of intent and permitted uses for the CR district for your review, and I'm looking for your discussion and determination on this.
My comment is when they come and say they're gonna build something, that's the time we discuss this particular determination. I'm not opposed to it, I'm just saying the timing is premature in my mind. The house has to be moved, and they have to submit then plans for development of that commercial property.
They have submitted conceptual plans at this point. I don't want to get too far ahead of the house being moved, and then we say, no, we're not in favor of a bank going there.
All right, but this is coming under your staff report and not coming under new business for action to be taken here by the planning commission.
I'm asking you to take action. So it is going to the historic board at their December meeting, which is December 19th, for them to weigh in and see if they will approve moving the house on 645 Mason over to 600 Washington. And so, yes, the next step, if that is approved by the historic board, which I don't know how that would, if there's going to be any objections or if that will be approved by the historic board, but if it should be, I know that the intent is for a bank to come into that location at 645 Mason. And I don't want us to get too far ahead of one approval, government approval, if this body is really not supportive of a bank being a complementary use in the CR district.
I would be in
Yeah.
favor of doing that only because it's putting that commercial, leaving that commercial influence on that end of Mason, to be honest. Rayfield's, the Kellogg building, which is commercial, and then another commercial building, and then it becomes residential, and then it becomes commercial again.
Yeah,
again, I'm not opposed to what is being conducted here. I just, the timing is, in my mind, off in the sense of, I don't have anything that's submitted by the bank other than a sketch,
Right.
all right?
And I'm trying to give them a zoning determination. Will a bank be an allowable use in the CR zoning district? I think yes, and now I'm asking this board, do you concur with my determination? So I can give a response back to the bank.
Okay, so you said you think it's,
It's permissible.
okay. Mike,
Well, make a motion and let's get on with
I
it.
make
Yeah.
a motion that 645 Mason Avenue.
So that a permitted use of a drive-through bank, as proposed at this location, is acceptable in the CR zoning district. And it's very specific, it's at this location. I'm not saying anywhere in the CR zoning district, but at this location, I think it is a compatible use.
It's
Not
more than
located.
one, it's more than one lot though.
Yes.
It's two lots.
It's two lots, so it's 647 and 645?
The other lot doesn't have an address yet because it has no structure on it, so.
So,
This doesn't
So
involve,
by
wa-
the tax map numbers that are going to be contained in that, yes. That are outlined in blue on the map, yes.
are we just talking about its current location or not?
At that at that proposed location, I find that a compatible use in this zoning district. And I'm hoping to achieve that from this board, that you concur with my determination.
And what about the relocation?
That, you guys have nothing to do with a relocation of a historic structure, that's historic district review board. So I think I've got your motion.
yes.
Can you read the motion back?
So Jim has indicated that at the property outlined, both at 641 Mason and the adjacent lot next to it, at that location, a bank would be a compatible use in the commercial residential zoning district.
Okay.
Second.
okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I think I got it.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes carried.
Okay.
Okay, last thing,
Meetings.
announcement of next meeting, regular session, Tuesday, January 2nd, 2024. So we have, who cannot be here for that? Besides Paul?
I might not be able to be there for that one, but I could be there for the night. If we can
Well,
move it to
I
the
can't,
ninth.
I can't do it
I can't do the 9th either.
tonight.
Does it have to be Tuesday?
No.
Okay.
Our traditional work session evening that we have set aside in previous years has been the third, is it the third?
Third Monday, I know.
Third Monday, yeah.
That is a holiday.
I know, it is. So what about the fourth Monday?
The fourth Monday could be a possibility.
22nd
January.
of January.
January 22nd.
When? The 22nd?
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
okay,
I will be,
It's good.
I'll be out of country.
okay.
I'm good.
Okay, so we have Grossman, Ashworth,
Ashworth.
Graham.
Actually, I'm looking, I have a.
That's a
yeah,
Tuesday?
It's
That's a
a
Monday.
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 Strube,
I can't, sorry.
So Ashworth and Holloway are out. So we have to pick another date.
how about, I know that Thursdays are out because of other things, so,
We do have a fifth Monday and Tuesday of the month.
yeah, but you see, if you have the fifth Monday,
I'm
I
pushing
mean,
us right into February.
you're gonna be, in 7, 8 days, you're gonna be doing another one on the
Another
6th of
meeting.
February.
I know,
And I'm gone that week anyways in the UK.
okay.
Is,
So what if we considered a Monday the 8th?
I can do that. Oh,
I know that's really,
Yeah.
like, typical night we would meet, but Monday the 8th.
Sorry.
That would work for you,
22nd is
but are
bad?
you still unavailable, Bill?
No,
Okay.
no, we moved our Main Street meetings to the third Monday, so the 8th is okay.
Monday, January 8th, so I'm hearing it.
At,
I
at
can-
6
I-
o'clock?
I can do the 8th, but I'll have to do it virtually again, so.
Okay.
It's fine.
The 8th,
Virtual too.
I have a conflict on the 8th, but I can try and work it out. It'd be great if we had another date other than the 8th, but does Tuesday the 9th work or no?
I'm not available.
I heard
Everybody's
that was a
gone.
no for our chairman already.
Thursday the 11th?
What's the,
I've got a BZA on
All right.
That's in the morning, though.
that. Well, no, it's in the morning.
No, that's on the 9th, we have it in the morning.
So, not the 11th. The BZA.
is there any stuff, has the planning, the town
We're always on a Tuesday.
council have their January schedule?
Yeah,
We don't have anything on the 11th at this time.
that'd be good then.
How about the
11th?
4th?
I like the 11th.
The council is meeting on the 4th.
Oh, they are? Okay.
How about the 11th?
How about the 11th? Is everybody okay with the 11th? Thursday, the 11th?
Virtually, yes.
Okay,
Okay, I'm good.
I'm good.
Shannon is virtual on both of those. You're saying we're good in this space, Libby?
Okay,
As far as I know, we don't have a council meeting that night.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so that's good to go. 11th,
So the 11th is what we're settling on, is
Yep.
that correct?
right.
okay.
Monday, sorry, Monday, it's not a Monday, it's a Thursday, January 11th. Okay,
Charge up that laptop battery.
I'll make sure I bring the charger next time, yes. Okay, thank you guys.
Thank
Thank
you. Do I have a motion to
Hey.
adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Bye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.